The best VR headset for sim racing is probably on this table, but I bet you don't know which one it is because we see so much content and videos and posts about the Meta Quest 3. People swear by it. We see so much with the PSVR 2. And we see a lot with the Pimax Crystal Light as well. I've done a lot over the years. But which is the best? I've never seen them compared like this. As always, I'm going to give my super honest comparisons and thoughts, and I'm going to take you beyond the specs, what actually matters as a sim racer, because sometimes you can look at a spec sheet, but it doesn't always tell the whole story. There are very subtle things when it comes to VR in sim racing. So what do we have on the table? We have the Meta Quest 3 from Meta. We have the PSVR 2 from PlayStation, and we have the Crystal Light from Pimax. All very, very, very different headsets, like very different. There's some people watching this video, one of these headsets is going to be better for you and not the others because we all have different preferences. So first of all, let's start with price, because the cheapest headset here might look like the Meta Quest 3, but it's actually the PSVR 2. So the PSVR 2 is about $400, but that's not the full story. It's $400, but on PC, you need to get the PC adapter thing, which I think is about $50. So we're talking about $450 for the PSVR 2. I still think it's an absolute bargain, and I'll let you know why they've been able to get to this price point. The Meta Quest 3 is about $500. It does often come bundled with a game, but that's not the whole story, because if you want to use it on a PC, you're going to need to get like the PC virtual cable, and also look at this strap. I mean, if you're doing sim racing, that strap probably not going to cut it. So you're probably going to want to get an updated strap. They do sell them separately, but this is like really, really, really basic. And the Pimax Crystal is always changing, I think between $700 and $800. This is a sponsored headset from Pimax. They've given me, and they also give me discounts to give away. So there'll be a discount in this video in the description, but about $700 to $800 for the Pimax Crystal Light. Now let's talk about these price points and the compromises, first of all, just philosophically. So the Meta Quest 3 has to compromise on, basically, it cannot be too big, it cannot be too heavy. It has to come out of a box and be something people want to put on straight away and have fun doing casual games and in the Meta Horizon Worlds thing. Because of that, they're not able to have a big front house like this. They're not able to have big speakers on the sides. They have to compromise to keep it super, super, super lightweight. Similarly, the PSVR 2 just absolutely needed to hit that price point. Like, it needs to be super cheap. So the materials are not great. On my PSVR 1, all the rubber really is worn away. We'll see if that happens on the PSVR 2. And also it was designed to be used on a PS5, so it keeps people in the PlayStation ecosystem. That's why there's some funny business working on a PC, and you do lose some of the features. You lose some of the features on PSVR 2 when you use it on PC. Pimax, they didn't compromise on the price, but because of that, you end up with a bulky headset. It's actually, even though it's called the Pimax Crystal Light, it's the heaviest headset as well. So I think both of these are about 500 grams. This is quite a bit heavier. It's not a heavy headset per se, like it's actually a lot nicer than the Pimax Crystal, but you can see it's bulky. They do have the headphones in the side, and they do have a much more solid top strap and gasket as well. But you can see it's not a sleek, small headset, certainly compared to these, and the big screen beyond too, and stuff like that as well. Now let's talk about lenses. This is where it gets super interesting, because the Meta Quest 3 has pancake lenses, and these are seen by lots of people as just like the best sort of lens at the moment. So pancake lenses tend to not give you any distortion, like they just work better when you're looking around. So Meta in the Quest 3 did get the pancake lenses. That's undoubtedly a huge win for the Meta Quest 3. The PSVR 2 has Fresnel lenses, which are often regarded as like not the best lenses. And that again, I think, is to hit that price point. People were disappointed about that when it was announced years ago. So you do have the most inferior lenses. The Pimax Crystal Light has like aspheric lenses. Some people, Pimax might say it's better than the pancake lenses. I think a lot of people say that the pancake lenses are better, but you do have glass spheric, it's not these Fresnel ones. When it comes onto displays, also super interesting, because the Meta Quest 3 has the worst display in terms of just the standard. It's using just a standard LCD display. So you've got these really good lenses, but a poor display. So you can see they're having to make compromises. The PSVR 2, some people will say has the best display because it has an OLED. So in terms of contrast and brightness and the vividness of colours, it has this OLED. That's a big win for the PSVR 2. And the Pimax Crystal Light has a QLED, which people will say is a nice balance. Like having a QLED, you do get that contrast and it has some tech to add it. But some people are going to be like, I really want an OLED. So again, I think the PSVR 2 is doing well there. Now, when it comes to resolution, I'll put the exact figures on screen, because on resolution, the Meta Quest 3 is about 2000 times 2200, and it has, like, if I remember, like a 25 ppd, which is nothing really special. Like it's not fantastic. The PSVR 2 has an even worse position. Like it's 2000 by 2000 is 21 ppd, so it's very low, and it does contribute to the softness that originally I thought was to do with the actual PS5, but it seems to be just the display itself. Whereas the Pimax Crystal Light is going to win this one because it has 2800 per eye, and that is a 35 ppd. So it is super, super sharp, and that's the thing that you notice when you put this on. Everything is pin sharp, and that has lots of downstream effects for sim racing because the actual resolution of the panel is super sharp. It helps with anti-aliasing. It helps with just the sharpness of things like the road, where the road goes into a white line, and then the grass, which you don't get if you have a softer display like the PSVR 2. Like that is for sure. So the Meta Quest 3, again, with those pancake lenses, it would have been amazing if there was a better display, but it doesn't have it. But okay, so we've got different things going on the display. Now let's talk about some other factors. Meta Quest 3 certainly has an ace up its sleeve, which is the way that you can have mixed reality. Like it has the best cameras tracking from the inside out you can see. So one of the best things about Meta Quest 3 is when you put it on for the first time, you can see windows in the world. Like it's insane. It's a really good experience, everyone I speak to. However, I would say for sim racing, not that important. When you're in sim racing in virtual reality, don't think you're going to be using that. That's more for a casual thing, like you can play Tetris in like your living room and see the blocks in the living room. So again, a really cool feature, but maybe not the best for sim racers. The PSVR 2 also has inside out tracking, which is great. You don't need any lighthouses or things, which I think is just a killer for sim racing. So that's great. But I did have big tracking issues with the PSVR 2 on my PS5 originally. I had to do all kinds of things to improve the tracking. So tracking on this was a bit hit and miss. It would often drift the headset. When I was driving, it would drift around. The Pimax Crystal Light, for me, has the worst cameras when it comes to pass-through. So that means when you double tap the headset, you can kind of see the world. I think it has the worst cameras, but for me, it has the best tracking. Like the tracking on this is absolutely rock solid. And when you're sim racing, you're not going to be using the pass-through. So let me know what you think of that in the comments. And by the way, if you're new to the channel, please make sure you subscribe as well if you enjoy these comparisons, because there's different features here that are useful for different things. Now, something that's really important when it comes to sim racing is field of view, and these headsets are actually all different. So I did check the stats, and the Meta Quest 3 and the PSVR 2 have a field of view of 110 degrees, okay? Now, field of view is so important for sim racing, for the sensor speed and the accuracy and the realism where you are in the car. And if you imagine that, like this is 180 degrees, like this. So 110 degrees, you can work it out. It's like 20 degrees more than 90, which is like this. The Pimax Crystal Light is actually 115 degrees, so it's 5 degrees more, so it's 2.5 degrees more on either side. So you kind of think how that works across 100. You're just getting a little bit more on either side, which could be important for sim racing, for that sense of speed, for just seeing the car come that's trying to overtake you or trying to overtake a car. So it's interesting that this form factor here does give a little bit more field of view. I'm not sure that on its own is going to be something that makes you choose this over the other ones. To me, again, that's interesting for sim racing, is the way these headsets connect to the PC, because you might all think they're the same, but they're not. The Meta Quest 3, you can do it wirelessly, but I recommend you use a virtual cable to do it, but that won't be a DisplayPort cable. So the latency is not as good on the Meta Quest 3 on PC. The PSVR 2 and the Pimax Crystal Light use DisplayPort, so 1.4 DisplayPort. That means you're going to get much better latency on PC. So these are just a bit better for sim racing, I'd say. So it's been really interesting so far to think about these specs, right, and how they're actually different. They're three very different headsets. It's really important to me to tell you about is how to run these headsets on PC, because the Meta Quest 3, you can have standalones. If you want to play like mobile-ish games, you can just put it on, use a battery, and play with your fingers. That's amazing. The PSVR 2, if you want to play Gran Turismo 7, you need the PSVR 2 and do it on PS5. That's amazing. But if you want to go for the ultimate PC sim racing, big grids, driving whatever car you want, driving online on the most in-depth sims where everything is super realistic, you're going to be doing it on PC. And the Pimax Crystal Light requires quite a bit of power to run that panel. Now, I've used this headset quite a lot in videos on this PC here, which has, behind my YouTube plat, a RTX 4060 Ti, which is not a high-end graphics card, and I have been able to get it to about 70 FPS. When I'm running it on my 4090 graphics card, I'm getting 120 FPS, because all these headsets go up to 120 Hertz. So if you have a beastly PC, that's where you're going to be like, okay, I can actually maximize the Pimax Crystal Light. I can use it at these super high resolutions at 120 Hertz, and you're probably having pretty much, and let me know in the comments if you disagree, you're probably having pretty much the best sim racing experience you can have in the world right now, as I speak. This, in say iRacing, Le Mans Ultimate, something like that, at 120 Hertz, at the full 2800 by 2800, that's just incredible. You're not going to hit those heights in these headsets for various reasons, but they're easier to get off the ground, if that makes sense. Now, I did mention that this headset is sponsored by Pimax, and they have given me a discount code or an upgrade thing. So if you already have a Meta Quest 3, I believe they're giving $80 credit to you if you buy a Pimax Crystal Light. All the details will be in the description, but this headset is $80 cheaper while it's still running, basically, if you have a Meta Quest 3, which is pretty insane. That takes off quite a bit off the Pimax Crystal Light. So let me know if that's a decent deal. It sounds like it might be. But I hope I've given you all the honest information about these headsets for you to make an informed decision. And basically let me know any questions you got in the comments. It's a great time to get into VR sim racing, and I really, really, really hope you enjoy it. I'll see you next time.